she hit the chat, tell all your girls. I'm scared to ask if we the last time never.
So here I'm using 3 yards of fabric, which I've gone ahead to cut into 2 lengthwise using my full length. And for each of the 2, I've folded it. So as you can see, there's one for the back and then one for the front. So on the back one, I'm going to mark, starting from the folded edge, my crotch depth extension. And here I'm using 3 inches. And for the front piece, I'll use 2.5 inches. So I'll go ahead and mark it all the way down and then draw a straight line as you see. So I'll put the back piece down, and then the front piece I'll put it starting on where the line for the back crotch depth extension is, and I'll put that down on top as well. Now I'm going to go ahead and mark half of my shoulder to shoulder measurement. So you're going to put the tape on your body from one side of your shoulder to the next shoulder. Whatever you get, you're going to divide it into 2. So for me, I got 15. So I'm going to go ahead and divide the 15 into 2. I'll get 7.5. And I'll place my tape on the line we made earlier and then mark. Mind you, I made a starting line, which you don't have to, but I don't want the frayed edges of my fabric to come in. So yeah. Next, we're going to add our sleeve length. The shoulder and the sleeves are together, mind you. So I want my sleeves to be 12. So I'm going to add 12 to it and then mark. So I've gone ahead to add my 12 there. Now as human beings, our shoulders are not very straight like a table, so we're going to make a shoulder slant. So I'm going to come down at that last measurement I made, I'll come down by 1 inch and join it to the starting line. It doesn't have to be straight, you can just do a free-handed thing. Now from here, we're going to make our necklines. So for the back neckline, I'm using 3 inches in and then 1.5 down. So I'll go ahead and join that to make just that curve you see me doing. All measurements are being taken from the line we drew earlier, okay? And I'm marking the front on the same piece as well. So the front, I'll come down by 7 and join it. For the front, I'm using a V neckline shape, okay? You can go ahead and use whatever you want. So now we are going to mark our vertical measurements. So starting from our top line there, I'm going to mark my shoulder to my nipple, which for me was 10. And then next I'll mark my shoulder to my waist, which for me was 14, so I'll just continue it. And then my shoulder to my hip was 22, so I'll mark it. And then join them together to get 3 straight lines. Now as you can see, there's a 4th line, even though my blue marker is not very clear. It turns out it wasn't recording, so let me explain. So after the 3rd line we drew, which was our shoulder to hip, now we're going to add our crotch depth line. And for that one, I did my hip, which is 40, divided by 4, I got 10. So that 10, you are going to add 3, and then that becomes what, 13. So I marked this starting from my waistline. Mind you, our waistline was the 2nd line. So you put your tape there, and then you mark your 13, which gave us that 4th line you see. So yeah. And so for that line as well, I went ahead to draw a straight line, this time all the way onto the back piece, as you can see here. And now we're going to put our marker at our hip line and then do a curve from that hip line to meet the crotch depth extension line on the back piece. You don't need to use a ruler, it can be free-handed. So yeah, that's what we have. So now we're going to go back to that shoulder slant line we had earlier at this point. And I'm going to draw a straight line from the top all the way down. And if you've been here for long, you know Efua can never find her ruler when she needs it to record a video. So I'm using my machine cover here. So yeah, you draw the line all the way down and then you come to the waistline. And then you go in from the waistline by 3, like so. Yeah, and then you join that to the bust line using a curve, a freehand curve. You don't need to use any ruler. Like I said, this tutorial is very beginner friendly. And so you go to the hip line as well and then you join it there to the mark you made on the waistline, as you can see me doing. And then we'll go ahead and cut it out. So now that we've done that, we're going to go ahead and split them at the center front all the way down. So I've gone ahead to do that, and I've put the front pieces together, right sides facing each other. So now we're going to make the markings on the wrong side. Now we're going to do that cinched waist effect. So first of all, we're going to take out our sewing allowances, and we remember we left ½ inch for sewing allowances. So we're going to mark that on the center front all the way to the crotch area, and we'll do that as well for the waist part. Take out ½ our inches. And here the marker started to fail me again, so I had to go for a pencil. But don't worry, later I use the pink marker so you see it clearly. Yeah, so this is what we have. And then those lines you have the middle one is just my waistline, which I've brought back. Remember my waist measurement was 14, like from my shoulder to my waist, so I've drawn that again. And so from that waistline I go up by 3 and then I come down by 2, and I've got these 2 lines. Now let's do some maths real quick. So after taking out the ½ inch on each side, what I have is 16. Now I want 5 tacks on my waist, so I'm going to divide this 16 by 6. So whatever number of tacks you want, add 1 to it and divide what you have by that. I want 5, so I have 6. So 16 divided by 6, I got 2.67, which is basically 2.7. So that's what I've divided the 16 into. Those are the lines you see, okay? So now take your actual waist measurement. So I measured around my waist. For me, that's 29. Divide it by 4. So for me, 29 divided by 4 is 7.25. So I'm going to take that 7.25 from the 16 I have, which will let me know the actual excess fabric I have, because mind you, after taking out the tacks, the waist should go back to the original waistline, which for me is 29. Yeah, so that 8.75 I got, I'll divide by 5 because I want 5 pleats, and when I divide that I get 1.75, meaning when I'm sewing along each of the tacks I have to sew 1.75 like that, so that when I'm done the waist will go back to the original. So what I'm going to do with this 1.75 is I'll divide it by 2, and I'll get 0.87, meaning that on each side I'm going to sew 0.87. So I've gone ahead to mark that. Now I'll take it to the sewing machine and sew on the tacks, and I'll do the same for the other side of the front piece as well. Okay, so this is several weeks later. So yeah, this is what I got after sewing the tacks, and I went ahead to join the 2 front pieces at the center front, and this is what we have. So I'm going to bring the back piece, which is these 2. I'll go ahead and join them at the center front, like following the crotch and all, but this time I'm putting a zip there as I join. So yeah, I'm joining them with a zipper, and I'll go ahead and do the same formula I did with the front in order to get the tacks for the back as well. So I'll join them at the center front with a zip. So this is what I got after joining with a zip. Now I've gone ahead to do the markings. This time I wanted 4 tacks at each side of the back, so I've done the markings. I'll go ahead and sew it, and then I'll join the front piece to the back piece along the sides and the crotch area, as well as hemming the sleeves and the trouser bottoms, and we are done. I couldn't record much after here because I left this project for such a long time. When I picked it up again, I needed to wear it somewhere, so I was in such a hurry. But yeah, thank you for sticking with me in this tutorial, and I'll see you in the next one.
But truth, it isn't relative.